Translator. Reverie. Kurisu. After stepping beyond the vast threshold of 10 flashes of sword chi, Ling Han advanced with unimpeded momentum, refining 9 further flashes in seamless succession. Yet when he sought to condense the 20th flash, another great barrier rose before him, like an immovable mountain, obstructing his progress for a long stretch of time. Feng Po Yun had shown true magnanimity toward Ling Han as a sworn brother. Within the monkey wine he left behind, he had deliberately sealed a strand of his own martial intent, so that when Ling Han imbibed it, that intent would circulate through his meridians and marrow, suffusing his entire being and elevating his comprehension of the martial path in all aspects. This revelation left Ling Han profoundly astonished. Upon reaching the spiritual infant tier, a cultivator could brand martial intent into a weapon, and with prolonged nourishment, that weapon could ascend into a spirit tool. Advancing further into the flower blossom tier, one could imprint martial intent upon rare materials and refine them into spirit talismans. Spiritual infant tier warriors were even more formidable, inscribing their martial intent into law decrees capable of suppressing heaven and earth. Naturally, elites of the deity transformation and heaven tier could also inscribe law decrees, and theirs were even more overwhelming in might. In his previous life, Ling Han had likewise penned law decrees. It had been exceedingly convenient, intimidating foes without ever stepping onto the battlefield. Yet to seal martial intent within wine, allowing another to ingest it and turn it into personal use, even Ling Han could not help but marvel at such a method. Martial artists refining origin crystals could leave behind faint traces of martial intent as well, but such remnants were utterly incomparable to this. Feng Po Yun was a grandmaster upon the sword path. The reason he sealed martial intent within the monkey wine was self-evident. He had discerned that Ling Han was also a swordsman, and thus offered targeted assistance. This martial intent was incomparably pure, free of even the slightest impurity. It embodied the supreme comprehension of the sword Tao. To Ling Han, this gift was beyond price. During the first 5 days, Ling Han continuously advanced his cultivation. The monkey wine did not propel him as frenziedly as it had the first time, yet it still allowed him to break through to the 6th layer of the flower blossom tier. In the 5 days thereafter, Ling Han immersed himself in Feng Po Yun's sword path, yet he did not absorb it directly. Instead, he used it as a mirror for reference. If he were to absorb it outright, then with Feng Po Yun's towering attainments in the sword Tao, it would be enough to dominate and influence him, forcing Ling Han's own path to follow Feng Po Yun's footsteps. But Ling Han had already chosen his own road. He would naturally step beyond such confines. The strengths of others could serve to temper and polish one's own strengths. Feng Po Yun cultivated the sentimental sword, one extreme in affection. In his lifetime, he loved but a single person, and even after her passing, his devotion did not waver and his obsession did not fade. Truthfully, Ling Han could not comprehend such sword intent. He indeed loved the heavenly divine Phoenix Maiden, yet he could never be so utterly consumed as Feng Po Yun. Thus he extracted only Feng Po Yun's comprehension of the sword Tao itself. After all, this was the fruit of several hundred years of painstaking cultivation, and at the height of the shattering void tier, it had already surpassed sword chi and sword ray, ascending into sword heart. With sword heart illumination, even a mere blade of grass could be wielded to cleave the stars. Feng Po Yun's sword heart shone within Ling Han's consciousness. Ling Han used that radiance to illuminate his own sword heart, deepening his understanding of the sword path and shaping it into sword chi. After 5 days, Ling Han flicked his right hand lightly. Shua. 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 19 flashes of sword chi swept forth in a radiant cascade, while the 20th flickered faintly at his fingertips. Concealed and not yet fully released, it had already taken root. Ling Han continued to move his fingers in subtle motions, and the 20th flash of sword chi gradually thickened, coalescing more and more distinctly, until it was fully formed. The 20th flash of sword chi is a great threshold. Once crossed, its power at the very least doubles. Ling Han nodded slowly. Previously, when he had felt immense pressure battling Xuanyuanzi Guang, it was chiefly because the opponent had mastered more than 20 flashes of sword chi, achieving a qualitative transformation. Now, If I were to fight that fellow again, I would have a 50% chance of victory. It cannot be helped that I cannot deploy Mysterious 3000. The strongest technique cannot be used. Otherwise, I could determine victory or defeat in a single stroke. While there is still time, I shall continue refining sword chi. Having crossed the great threshold of 20 flashes, I should be able to cultivate several more within a short span. The aura of Feng Po Yun's sword heart still lingered. Ling Han would naturally not squander such a rare opportunity. Even Feng Po Yun himself might not be able to perform such a feat many times. Severing a portion of one's own sword heart to grant it to another was a form of self-inflicted injury. Ling Han sighed inwardly that this sworn brother of his was truly a man of deep sentiment. Merely because they had become sworn brothers, he had bestowed upon him such a precious chance. In the future, he would certainly repay this favor well. After 3 more days, the aura of Feng Po Yun's sword heart finally dissipated. Ling Han ceased his cultivation and waved his right hand. 23 flashes of sword chi burst forth in a dazzling arc, their might awe-inspiring. What a pity! Had there been another month, I could have driven sword chi to the limit of 29 flashes. But is 29 flashes truly the ultimate limit? Ling Han did not know. Only upon reaching that realm personally would he discover the answer. So-called limits were meant to be broken. For some, 10 flashes marked the boundary. For others, he stepped out of seclusion. Zhu Xuan Error immediately came forward to greet him and said, "Brother Han, you have finally emerged. Sister Hong has nearly worried herself sick. The contest begins the day after tomorrow." Ling Han laughed and said, "Let her worry. I have yet to collect my appearance fee from her." "Oh, right." Zhu Xuan retrieved several boulders the size of heads from her spatial ring. Their colors varied, some pitch black, some yellowish brown, some violet. These are the star fragments that Big Brother struck down. After the people in the city collected them, none dared to keep any for themselves. They presented them all to Brother Han to dispose of. Fallen star metal, Ling Han's heart stirred with delight. He examined several of the meteorites carefully, and a smile spread across his face. He said, "Blood rainbow iron, dragon's tooth gold, crimson cloud bronze stone. Ha ha ha, all of them are 7th tier rare metals. Unfortunately, not a single piece has reached the 8th tier. Ah well, one must not be too greedy. 7th tier rare metal is already quite excellent." Ling Han turned to Zhu Xuan and said, "You should change your sword. These are 7th tier rare metals. With daily nourishment and the imprint of your martial intent, it will eventually become a 7th tier spirit tool." "Thank you, Brother Han," Zhu Xuan replied softly, her eyes brimming with tenderness and affection as she gazed at Ling Han, looking as though she would allow him to do as he pleased. "Do not tempt your brother. My will is quite firm." Ling Han pinched her smooth, jade-like chin playfully, then brought her into the Black Tower. He intended to refine those fallen star metals into weapons. At present, they could only be considered iron ore. From purification to tempering and final refinement, even the most accomplished master blacksmith would require roughly half a year to complete the process. Yet, within the Black Tower, all things were simplified. Ling Han was like a sovereign deity within that realm. He summoned 10th tier divine flame, effortlessly melting the ores and expelling every trace of impurity. In merely half a day, the metals were thoroughly tempered and refined. "What form do you prefer?" Ling Han asked Zhu Xuan. After repeated adjustments under Zhu Xuan's guidance, Ling Han forged a treasured sword with a slender yet incomparably sharp blade. It was not yet a spirit tool and would require prolonged nourishment with martial intent. Yet the quality of the raw materials already determined its lofty potential. Ling Han also forged one for himself. However, his brute strength had become terrifyingly immense. A sword weighing 100 pounds in his grasp felt no heavier than an embroidery needle and carried no sense of weight whatsoever. Thereafter, Ling Han crafted a bow and 10 arrows for himself as well, though a suitable bowstring still had to be found. Once all preparations were complete, the once every 3 years contest of the Spirit Treasures Pavilion was finally on the verge of commencement. "Reviri?" Kurisu Ling Han sought out Yin Hong and informed her that not only would he set foot upon the alchemy arena, he would also ascend the stage of martial contest. Already expected it. This old lady had your name submitted long ago, Yin Hong replied bluntly, her tone carefree and without restraint. You acted first and reported later? Were you not afraid that I cherish peace by nature and never delight in fighting or killing? Ling Han said with a faint smile playing at his lips. Bah! At a glance, you are the combative sort. Especially when you encounter geniuses of the same generation, you probably dream of trampling them beneath your feet. Not to mention Xuanyuan Ziguang, who harbors designs upon your wife. Yin Hong shot him a fierce glare. That Hai Nu truly is not my wife. Ling Han let out a helpless sigh. Not your wife? Then why does she cling to you so tightly? Yin Hong clearly did not believe him. She winked toward the young woman who grasped the hem of his robe with one hand while clutching a brick in the other. Ling Han sighed once more. Helian Shui now adhered to him like a shadow, even more inseparable than Hu Nu. At least Hu Nu could be coaxed away with delicacies, but this Hai Nu was plainly not a glutton. I understand. Newlyweds, sweet and inseparable. Yin Hong nodded as though enlightened. I will not disturb you two in your tender moments. Remember, tomorrow at noon is the alchemy contest. Do not exhaust your spirit so thoroughly that you cannot refine pills when the hour arrives. Female rascal, Ling Han said, utterly powerless. To an alchemy emperor, an alchemy contest was no more than a trivial matter, scarcely worthy of concern. For now, Ling Han devoted his thoughts to the martial path. He wished to adhere bone patterns onto the fused sword chi. The bone patterns of the old vicious mongoose were truly astonishing, capable of amplifying destructive might by one-fold to two-fold. With the strength of Ling Han's current 23 flashes of fused sword chi, if those bone patterns could be adhered upon them, then even if it fell short of a true sword ray, it would not be far removed. If the bone patterns could indeed be adhered, Ling Han possessed the confidence to suppress Xuanyuan Ziguang. Otherwise, the outcome would remain 50-50. Furthermore, since I have fused sword chi, it may already be called a pseudo-ray. Perhaps I can attempt the 10,000 techniques, return to one? On the foundation of Mysterious 3000, merging 3,000 strikes into a single blow. Such an attack, even if I advance into the spiritual infant tier, and my physique rivals rare metals of the same tier, it could still be cleaved apart, provided the weapon is sufficiently formidable. Against the Heaven's Sword Sect, I must be especially cautious. These ancient sects have stood tall for no less than 20,000 years, possessing innumerable treasured tools, with no lack of 9th tier and even 10th tier artifacts. Should they unleash 10,000 techniques, return to one against me, it would be no trifling matter. Within the Black Tower, Ling Han immersed himself in deducing the 10,000 techniques return to one. With ordinary sword chi alone, it could not be activated in the slightest, yet after cultivating a sword ray, those obscure and abstruse sword secrets became smooth and lucid. However, Ling Han had only formed a pseudo-ray, thus his deductions progressed slowly. As his blade revolved, the sword chi trembled with extreme instability. He named this new blade the Purple Bale Sword, for it had been forged from purplish gold dragon pattern metal. In its present might, it still could not compare to the bone sword. It was merely somewhat sharper and slightly more resilient. There was no helping it. The bone sword was a genuine 6th-tier spirit tool imbued with Bashia's martial intent. With a single sweep, its terrifying pressure descended like a towering mountain. The purple bale sword, however, triumphed in potential. So long as Ling Han continued to nourish it with his own martial intent, in time it would inevitably ascend into a spirit tool. Yet this would require at least 12 to 20 years. By then, I would certainly have stepped into the heaven tier, and this sword would no longer be of much use to me. Sigh, in this life my advancement in tier is too swift. Even upon obtaining a fine weapon, I cannot nurture it into a spirit tool before needing to replace it. Such hardship. Though he voiced complaint, Ling Han's smile shone brilliantly. Who would not wish for their cultivation to soar ever upward? It would be best if I could obtain a piece of divine metal and settle everything in a single stroke, refining my own natal spirit tool from it. Alas, divine metals exist only in legend. Should one appear, even shattering void tier elites would fight to the death for it. I would not even qualify to contend. Forget it. I shall focus wholeheartedly on sword cultivation. Over the course of a single night, Ling Han achieved only minor progress in the 10,000 techniques. Returned to one, yet gained considerable inspiration regarding the adherence of bone patterns. With merely one more day, he should be able to achieve substantive advancement. However, dawn had already broken, and before long it would be noon. Ling Han emerged from the Black Tower. After eating casually, he proceeded toward the alchemy contest together with Jushuan Er and the other two girls. From the east, south, west, and north regions, Spirit Treasures Pavilion subbranches, together with the headquarters in the Middle State, more than 100 individuals gathered in one place. Such a contest concerned not only the honor of each subbranch and the headquarters, but also bore substantial significance. Yin Hong and the others were future candidates for the Spirit Treasures Pavilion's Pavilion Master. Their present performance would be scored, influencing whether they might become candidate pavilion masters. For this reason, Yin Hong and the others attached such gravity to the matter. Aside from Yin Hong, 4 others formed the framework of the younger generation: Yin Hao Qi, East Region; Yin Ji Ming, West Region; Yin Lei, North Region; and Yin Si Miao, Middle State. Their performances would be observed over a span of 20 years, after which one among them would be selected as the candidate pavilion master. Subsequently, 5 youths of the Yin family would be chosen to undergo examination, from whom a pavilion master candidate would be selected. Among the current 9 pavilion masters, should any pass away due to old age or misfortune, his position would be inherited by the candidate pavilion master. 1 radish, 1 hole. Countless individuals stood in line, awaiting their chance to rise. Each sub-pavilion announced its candidate to partake in the alchemy contest. All had invited astonishing alchemy prodigies. The one bearing the highest title was a low-level Earth-grade alchemist at the mere age of 29, an exceedingly remarkable figure. This man was named Xuan Ji Yun, hailing from the South region. Meanwhile, the other 3 regions had invited alchemists who were all high-level yellow grade. To attain high-level yellow grade before reaching 30 years of age was already an impressive achievement. This was closely tied to the environment. As the environment improved and spirit grasses became more abundant, the opportunities for alchemists to refine high-level medicinal pills increased correspondingly. Refining pills depended upon repeated attempts and learning through failure before achieving success. For instance, if one required 99 failures before a single success, then in Ling Han's former lifetime, it might have taken 99 years to gather sufficient ingredients. Now, however, 30 to 50 years would suffice. The circumstances were utterly incomparable. Thus, whether martial arts prodigies or alchemical eccentrics, they emerged one after another as though nothing extraordinary. The change lay in the environment. That was all. The alchemy contest was the one with the least suspense. Once Xuanji Yun's identity as a low-level Earth-grade alchemist was revealed, it was tantamount to announcing his victory in advance, causing the alchemists of the other 3 families to lose their fighting spirit. Only Yin Hong remained brimming with confidence. What a jest. The alchemist she had invited was a heaven-grade alchemist. After all,